So this game I was feeling a little bit thrown off from the beginning because my opponent played this opening, which I'm unfamiliar with. So I just tried to get through the opening without making any crazy mistakes or falling into any traps. This all felt fairly straightforward, but again, this whole time I feel like he has the upper hand because I'm not familiar with this opening while he is because he's playing it. In retrospect, I think my thinking here was I just wanted to develop and get into castling position as quickly as possible. But when he played this, it made me feel like I lost a tempo because I'm kind of forced into playing this defensive move that I could have done a move earlier. At this stage, I'm not feeling super great. I have no center pawns. He still has the ability to play this one. I guess I could play this one. But this bishop's doing nothing. I feel like he has been on the attack. He's probably going to do a queenside castle here any second. He does I castle just to try and feel a little bit more secure, but yeah, he's got a lot of active pieces, and I don't really have much development going on. I also feel like this knight is kind of precarious. He pushes. My thought here is I want to try and get his queen less involved while also eventually pushing this pawn up so I can bring my bishop into the action. Maybe he's setting up bringing in his bishop on d6 to eventually threaten mate down here. But yeah, I'm trying to stick with my plan, but I probably should have thought a bit harder about what he's doing here. But yeah, my thought here is if I can fortify this pawn, this bishop and my queen are defending this against the rook, and then also I've opened up an avenue for my black bishop to develop. So now he's obviously threatening checkmate down here, and I've got my knight defending that pawn, but I worry that if he takes and I take back, then I just lose. I don't like having that many dominoes ready to fall. So I try and avoid the immediate checkmate by pushing, but also with the idea of get this bishop to back off a little bit. He goes for the trade. That's fine, I guess. I'm not... This is what I was worried about earlier, where if I hadn't pushed this pawn, he'd be threatening mate. But now I've got a pretty powerful push out on his queen, and he can't back up here because my bishop is covering. So I'm kind of forcing him to either go to g6 or somewhere else on this row. Again, he sets up the checkmate threat again. That's probably what I would have done as well. I don't have a great way to defend this with my bishop, so I'm kind of forced to either creating an exit square here, which I don't love, by pushing my... That's actually maybe it wouldn't have been that bad. If I move my rook over to e1, attacking the queen, if he pushes here... Nah, I don't love it. I think I did the right move of pushing the pawn. So that prevents the immediate checkmate. Obviously, this pawn is pretty weak now. This bishop isn't as well defended either. So I still feel like he's got the initiative. I would also probably do what he's doing and just start pawn rushing, though the computer seems to think bringing in more pressure with the knight. Yeah, that could have been good too. Yeah, I guess I'm still kind of worried about this diagonal of pressure. I want to connect my rooks. So I bring in the bishop to try and force his queen out of position there. And yeah, I don't take back here because I worry that if he brings in his rooks, that does more damage. But I am a little worried about him trading bishops, and then all of a sudden it's hard for me to defend this pawn, and he's got some more direct attacks on my king. I really totally missed this pawn being vulnerable. So I probably should have brought my bishop back down to g2 to defend that weak pawn. Instead, I feel like, if I bring my bishop to e4, then I defend this weak pawn. I put some pressure on his queen. Obviously, I missed that entirely. So he goes there. That's pretty threatening looking, especially if he trades bishops here. I don't know. I probably should be looking to kick him out by bringing my bishop back to g2 to scare him off. Instead, I play this with the idea of if I can either eventually grab this pawn or grab this knight and then the pawn, I can kind of, weaken his entire queenside castle. That's a pretty sharp move. Nothing was defending d4 square. Obviously, he's putting pressure on my queen now. But I get a little crazy here. I put him in check. That's, in retrospect, probably not the best move because he can just, move to b8 probably is fairly safe. And I can't follow up by bringing my queen in because his knight is still covering there. And then now my queen is having to cover a lot more ground than she's comfortable. Thankfully, though, he does this kind of odd move of going to d7 as his escape square instead, which makes me have to worry a lot less about my bishop. Obviously, I need to protect my queen, get it out of there. And then what does he go for here? He goes for the trade. And I think his thought was he's trying to set me up for a royal fork. So if I take with the queen, he can put me in check, and then he just straight up wins the game, right? Because he grabs my queen in a royal fork. But I could take his bishop with the pawn instead, which really kind of opens me up to him putting his queen on g4. He's got a pretty strong attack going there. But instead I ignore all of that because now that he's moved his bishop off of the d6 square, his king is kind of open. So I don't want to mess with the royal forks or anything. I just go ahead and I grab, put him in check. He does not have an escape square here, so he's going to have to move to one of these two squares. But, now his bishop is just completely hanging. So he goes there. I grab the bishop. I feel like I'm straight up winning now. Like, he used to have two middle pieces putting a lot of pressure down here. Now both of those pieces are gone. His king is kind of in the center. I don't understand this move at all. I don't know if he thought that pawn was protected or something, but I just grab it. So now he's got, 1, 2, 3, 4 pawn islands. His king is completely exposed. Yeah, his queen's kind of in an annoying, threatening position here, but he's got nothing to back it up. So queen can't really do too much there. I feel like I'm in a pretty strong winning position. This is just a straight up blunder. So once he's in check here, I guess he might have been afraid to move back here in case I bring my bishop to check him, but he could have just slid over to d7, and that would have been fine. I guess maybe he was worried I'd bring in my queen to check him over here on b5. Yeah, I think if he had moved to either of these two squares, he's fine. Instead, he moves here. That's a loser because now his rook is hanging. I grab it and he resigns. But yeah, that was just kind of a fun game for me because he played an opening I was unfamiliar with. I didn't panic. I didn't worry about the clock too much. And then even when he had a pretty powerful attack in the mid game, I was able to kind of not fall for the forks and eventually push him into some blunder situations. Anyway, pretty fun game. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it.